Hi there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hi there, and welcome to Being Human, Hidden Depths. My name is Jill Tiny, and I am part of the Collaboration Global community, and I am thrilled, I tell you, to introduce to you one of our members from Collaboration Global, Mitali. Oh, Mitali, you're going to have to say your surname again. I've been practicing, but I always get it wrong. How do you say it?
Deypurkaystha.
Deypurkaystha. There we go. Deypurkaystha. I will get that. So welcome. Lovely to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So you and I, when we get together, oh gosh, we chew the cud, as they say, and have lots to talk about. I'd like to ask this question that I kind of pose to most people at the beginning. Why Collaboration Global? What's collaboration in your life? And what attracted you to be part of this movement of sharing collaboration, teaching people collaboration? What was the attraction for you to this community?
Okay, so that's a two-part question, so let me try to answer correctly. So first of all, why collaboration? Because I just love the word. It's a word that, you know, lots of people know in the English-speaking world anyway, and yet don't really epitomize. They don't really do it. There's a lot of lip service to collaboration, but you know, I remember many years ago creating this theory. It might not even be my theory. I could have stolen it for somebody, so I apologize if someone's listening going, that's my theory, Mitali. Why have you
they stole it from somebody anyway, so don't worry.
Sometimes you know what it's like. You get all of this amazing information in your brain, but then you can't remember who you or where you got it from. And then you could make the mistake of thinking you created something when it wasn't your own. But I started talking about pie mentality, and what I meant by that is whenever I would meet people who felt that you doing well in something somehow took away from them. I would say that person had pie mentality. In other words, we all have this one big pie, and someone having a bigger share is taking away from their share. Whereas my attitude always was, we all have pies. We all have individual pies. You know, you getting a huge share and doing something amazing does not take away from me. You know, I should be able to be happy for you. It's not taking away from me. And collaboration is kind of that's the similar idea that, you know, you collaborate, and actually it takes it one further with that pie mentality, in that the more I give to your pie, my pie gets bigger. Yeah. So it's also kind of taking what I was thinking about over a decade ago and taking it to the next level. And it's something that I've always believed. I've never understood this, you know, this concept of, you know, that it takes away, you know, you working with somebody is taking something away from you, or you even spending money with somebody is taking money away from you. I've always found that the more you spend on, you know, and you do, you know, you spend well with service providers, you don't try to, you know, I've had this before with some people. It's sort of like, oh, can you do me a deal? Can you do me? And it's like, why do you think, you know, we don't live, especially in the UK, we don't live in a kind of, you know, souk kind of world. You know, like, you know, you go over to Morocco, that's expected. They're going to give you an inflated price, and they're doing that on purpose because they expect to be haggled down. We're not in that. So if I'm giving you a cost, or if a service provider comes to me and says, this is how much it's going to cost to do a website, this is how much, then if I'm going to do business with that person, I already trust them. So therefore, they are giving the correct price. If I think that that person is inflating their price, I wouldn't haggle with them. I just wouldn't even do business with them. I'd be like, that's disrespectful. So if I trust that person enough to give them my business, why would I be haggling with them? You know?
Yeah.
And if you pay your service providers correctly, your strategic partners correctly, and they pay you, you actually make more money. So instead of trying to cut corners and trying to get like a deal from people, you know, so that to me, that's a very long way of answering. But I hope I've answered, you know, why like why Collaboration Global in particular. Well, I have to say, I met you I think over a year ago, was really, really impressed. I just wasn't at that time. I was had a very fledgling business. I was also rebranding from Let's Tell You Story Publishing to the Vegan Publisher, which was taking up all my time. And I think for collaboration to work well, you have to be secure and know exactly what you're offering.
Absolutely.
And when you can know what you're offering, then you can spot opportunities to collaborate with other people, and other people can spot opportunities to collaborate with you. And I wasn't there yet. Around about this time last year, I just finished rebranding into the Vegan Publisher, and I was still sort of working out who is my niche and all those sorts of things. Fast forward a year later, I now know exactly what my niche is, what my message is, you know, who my audience is. I know all of those things. So I think I'm an easier person to collaborate with. So it made sense to join earlier this year than it was last year.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because I always say to people, timing is everything. And when the time is right, this is easy. It's so easy to kind of go, do you know what? This is going to slot in with everything I'm doing, and I can then support other people and they can support me, and it's going to work. But if you're kind of clinging on by your fingernails and it's stressing you out, then it's not the right thing to do. So it has to be something that feels right. And I always say it's not a conversation about, okay, so what am I going to get out of this? What's in it for me? The conversation is right. It feels, the energy is just great, and I just love being there. And if I didn't, I would feel like I'm missing out. So it's that kind of energetic universe kind of thing, bringing you right time, right place, right people, and it feels right, and it's like, yeah, let's do it. And I think that's why I love some people that I can have never met them before. They've maybe been looking at us from a distance, and they make a phone call and they say, I'd really like to get involved. And they don't even have to come to a meeting. They don't have to meet anybody. They just get, and they like the energy of what we are representing, and the bigger picture of what we're representing as well, of just making the world a better place and creating a bigger impact than when you're on your own. So I love that. Going back to your pie mentality, I love that. I was talking to a lady the other day who was saying about she doesn't want to give too much away. And she spoke to a potential client the other day who took 2.5 hours of her time, then made her write a report on what they'd been talking about, and then said she wasn't going to work with her and she was going to go with somebody else. And people like that I've been told I'm giving too much away and I can't keep giving that away. So I had to kind of like, you know what? All that stuff that you gave her, that knowledge, that information is kind of already out there. What she would have been paying for is your help and support to implement all of that.
Exactly.
So just because she's taken it away doesn't mean to say that she's not going to come back to you. So don't feel it's this negative energy around my stuff. This is my IP. This is my potential client. Don't you steal my client? And that kind of fear mentality, that scarcity mentality, there's not enough to go around. If I lose that client, then I've got no clients. And that begets more of the same thing that you don't want. So when you have the freedom to give and share, as you are doing in the community already, I mean, you know, bang, you hit the ground running. You know, those 10-minute teachers that you're providing, packed full of value. And I'm like,
I can't stop talking. I'm like, 10 minutes goes by. It's like, oh my God, I'm running over. Stop talking, Mitali.
But it's good. And when you're in the flow, my husband tells me off when I do them as well. He's like, you know, that was 17 minutes, don't you? And you're supposed to be a 10-minute teacher. When poetic license, that's fine. It's okay. So I know exactly how you feel about that. Tell me about your ambitions for the Vegan Publisher. Why? Let's start at the beginning. Why Vegan Publisher?
Well, I love working with, you know, vegan or plant-based or ethical, sustainable business owners or social entrepreneurs and people who are genuinely making a difference. You know, it's over the last few years, it's become very fashionable to call yourself green or eco-conscious or social, but then, you know, it's like, yeah, so I mean, it's in your face sometimes. Or some, you know, things like I just saw something recently about McDonald's sponsoring, you know, loads of free meals to kids. I'm like, please don't. Do you know what I mean? I know they need food, but not your food. I'm not even sure if I can call it food. You know, so you know, things that just don't even work. You know, so
yeah.
or yeah, I've definitely seen like KFC, you know, who sponsored the Olympics. I'm like, Olympians don't eat KFC. They wouldn't be Olympians. So there's you know, there's strategic partnerships that don't even make sense, and that's the world that we live in now.
Yeah.
So I'm attracted to businesses and nonprofits. I work with nonprofits as well, who are genuinely making a difference. You know, they're not sort of like doing things and just being lip service and greenwashing and that kind of thing. What I found is when you're trying to do things the right way, sadly, we still live in a world that there's a higher chance of your business failing when you're not cutting corners. I mean, let me give you a mind-blowing example. The reason Amazon have told me that they're still not using recycled paper for their books, because they were able to give me assurances last year that they are using vegan inks and vegan glues in their books, which made me feel really good. But then the next topic was, okay, what about the paper that you print on? And they're using non-recycled paper. So I said, okay, well, why is that? Surely it should be cheaper to use recycled paper. And they said, no, it's actually more expensive for them to use recycled paper than virgin paper. Yeah. It's actually cheaper to cut down trees and make paper than to mush up paper that's already been used and turn that back, which makes zero sense. But this is what I mean. The world we live in is almost set up for failure when it comes to you doing things the right way.
But so you know why that is though? Just to go back to the paper thing, because I do have a little bit of experience in that, bearing in mind I've got a stationery company, is that they will tell you that the public want white paper, and there is a difference between recycled paper and, you know, freshly cut paper, and it's a slight color difference, not a lot, but there is a slight discoloration. So they will have you believe that because of that they have to do the new paper, not recycled, where in reality they've just got the distribution set up so that they don't want to change anything, because that would cost them some money.
That's
like they don't have any spare. But also they will have you believe that it's us, the consumer, that doesn't like it. But nobody's asked us if you could give them a choice of, do you want this on recycled paper or do you want this on I would imagine most people would say, yeah,
most people go for recycled. And there's something else I don't know if you had. This is again a bit of learning I got from one of my clients. She said that a small proportion of people with dyslexia struggle with the glare of white paper, which is why I advise all of my clients, and they all have listened to me so far, all 22 of them that I've published. I give them a choice. I said, you can go for white or cream paper, but I advise you to go for cream paper because you're making your book more inclusive. And so far, so basically the whole recycle thing would be welcome, because if it's slightly off white, great. You've not only are you not tearing down trees for your books, you're making your book more inclusive.
So a lot of these larger, exactly, but a lot of these larger companies pretend to be green, but if it's convenient.
Exactly. So yeah, to go back to what my goals are for the vegan publisher is to really help these specific businesses who are genuinely making a difference, you know, social entrepreneurs, non-profits, eco-conscious businesses, and give them a platform to really talk about it. What we've just said before, if people, you know what, Amazon may be right. If you spoke to the average person on the street and said, hey, would you like a book with white pages or would you like a book with cream pages? They'd probably go white. But if you affix that before you gave them the chance to answer, if you said that, would you like to go with white paper or would you like to go with cream paper that is inclusive to sex of people and is recycled? How many of them will actually then go white? Or how many of them will actually go, let's go with cream? So, you know, and this is all about education. And that's why I'm so passionate about being a publisher for those people. Because when you write a book, it's one of the biggest ways you can really get your message out there and educate en masse. And not even just the book, it's the opportunities the book create, such as going on podcasts like this, and such as, you know, speaking on stage, and again that message goes out further, and then people, maybe I'm being, you know, a bit of a naive optimist here, but I genuinely believe the average human being, if they're given all the evidence and all, they will make the right choice. They generally make the right choice if you give them the right information.
And also there is a chance of people saying, I don't mind, so then do the right thing. You know, if people aren't really fussed, white or cream, whatever, just send me the book, I don't mind, well then make the right decision. I'm going to ask you a really awkward question now. Because I've helped a few people to write their stories exactly the same reason as you. It's like they have got a story to tell, and it's, oh my goodness, it's like, if you don't get this out, then I'm going to write it for you. It's like so desperate to, people need to read it. Out of your clients so far, and you can mention names or you don't have to mention names, do a bit of free advertising, but what is kind of your favorite book that is out there now that is like, oh my goodness, this story had to be told?
You're asking me, it's like asking me to choose between my children. Okay, you do that, Jill.
I did say it was an awkward question.
Or maybe I should say choosing between my cats. I don't have children. I have
okay.
two cats, but I couldn't choose between them. I honestly don't know, because of the, you know, these exceptional people that I'm working with. I always say it takes an exceptional person to even own their own business or nonprofit. You know, I think sometimes we forget that, especially as business owners. We network with each other, and it feels like the entire world is full of business owners, but that's because birds of a feather flock together. If you actually look at it on a worldwide or even a nationwide scale, the number of employees, people doing a job and then coming home, and people who actually own something, we're minuscule. We're a tiny proportion. So just to own a business or a nonprofit, you're an exceptional person. But then to own a business that is genuinely not just paying lip service, but actually having an impact, either socially with other humans or with animals or with the planet as a whole. You've now, if you think of Venn diagrams, you've even gone even smaller from the minuscule, you know. So I'm working with people who are utterly exceptional. Utterly exceptional people tend to have amazing stories. So asking me to choose between them, honestly, I couldn't. I mean, I can talk about some recent ones. So that my most recent author that I've just published about 4 weeks ago, Tiffany, she's based in Texas. She is plant-based. She, in her own words, says lives in the most non-vegan state you could imagine in the US. Texans love their meat and they love their dairy, and they see it as their right to consume. And they will even quote the Bible and say things like, you know, it says in the Bible, we have dominion, not realizing that when the Bible was written, dominion meant to take care, not to dominate. You know, they're making the link between dominion and dominate, and it's like, no, you know. And if you actually look back at when that was written, that's not it. It meant you need to look after. You are the guardian species, basically. So she went plant-based. She was born with congenital issues. And then being Texan and being pretty much fed from a very early age a ton of dairy, a ton of red meat, she started even in her late 30s, started to develop things that we normally see maybe in the 50s and 60s, such as high blood pressure, heart issues, diabetes too, all of that stuff. Then she found out that it could be all these animal products that she's eating. Completely got rid of that, and now she's healthier. Not just like, you know, people say, oh, I'm healthier than I was in my 20s. She's healthier since, she's like, even as a baby I don't think I was that healthy, because her mother obviously was eating a lot of animal products when she was in the womb. So she's like, I can't even look back at a time and saying, oh, I'm as healthy as I was as a teen. Or she's like, I'm literally healthier now than when I was born. So that's an incredible story. Then there's another lady, Bobby, who spent 40 years battling bulimia and anorexia, and only into her 50s did she realize that, you know, especially with dairy, that it's by design to make you addicted, and cheese being the worst offender. With milk, at least it is got a natural amount of the addictive property casein in it, because even human milk has casein in it, and the goal of that evolution, or God, if you believe in God, whichever, either the goal of that is if a child doesn't drink the milk, it's going to die. So the goal is to addict the child. Yes. And that's why we call it weaning off. You don't need to wean off something if it's not addictive. So that's why we wean kids off. However, with cheese, it's basically like taking a line of cocaine and squashing it. What do you end up with? Crack is what you end up with. That's kind of what cheese is. And no one should be eating that. Even human cheese, if there was a woman out there expressing milk somewhere and wanting to create human cheese, even that we shouldn't be eating that. Certainly, never mind another species, which is not even designed for our body, our genetic makeup. So she basically went plant-based, especially removing cheese, and what she realized was there's a lot of books already written about the health, the physical health side of becoming whole food plant-based. What there's no books about is what it does to you mentally. And she realized by going whole food plant-based, it didn't matter what she ate, as long as she just ate when she's hungry. She stopped calorie counting, she stopped being sick, she stopped measuring herself and everything, and she's now at the perfect weight, and she knows she'll never go out of that perfect weight now. She's exactly the size she needs to be. So you can't get overweight or underweight if you're not having processed foods and you're not having animal products. It's physically impossible.
You just listen to your body, don't you? As long as you get into the habit of listening to your body, and you don't have any of the addictive sugars and all the other bits and pieces that go with it.
So those, I can go on. Then I've got, just to give you a complete, because those two are very sort of plant-based kind of. I worked with another lady who's a financial planner. Nothing to do with plant-based or anything like that. And she, what she would find is, she's a financial planner for all kinds of people. But what she was noticing over the last 10 years is women who are coming into her business and wanting help, with financial planning. And they were retiring into poverty. Now, these women, originally, she lives in quite a leafy suburban area somewhere down south. I'm sorry, I'm north, so anything beyond Watford, I'm like, there's London, there's Bristol,
we're the same the other way around,
and then that's it. The rest of it is just south. And I don't when people say things like, oh, I'm from Gloucestershire, I'm like, oh, how lovely.
Where's that?
No idea what it is. I just know they are. I know they're south. I know they're not in London, I know they're not in Bristol, and that's about it. I'm just like, that sounds lovely. I have no idea where you are. She's somewhere down south, somewhere leafy, like one of those places that I don't know. And these women are, coming from some kind of money. Okay, I would say like upper middle class. And yet they were retiring into poverty. So she started to do some investigative work. It's like, what's going on here? Where's the pattern? And this makes no sense. And what she realized is all of these women had children sometime in the late 20s, early 30s. Either they left work and then went back to work a few years later, or they left work and went back part-time. And significantly, they were now divorced from that partner. They had children. And what she realized is what was seen in the 90s as a real coup for women and women empowerment and women's rights, which was you can go in, have children, and then come back part-time. Yes, that is good from a practicality point of view when you have young children. But because we have a system in place in this country where your employer contributes what you contribute into your pension. If you're only working part-time, you're contributing less. But not only are you contributing less, your employer is contributing less. So you end up, and she worked out that the average woman in the UK, she gets her pension pot value is around a fifth of the average guy.
Gosh.
I thought half was bad enough. It's a fifth. Now, none of this matters if you stay married to hubby, because it's coming to the same part anyway. But if you do what a lot of people do, and you empty nest, and suddenly you look at that person and think, I'm not really in love with you anymore. Should we split up? And the guy's doing really well. He's absolutely fine. And she's now, she wrote a book called Dare to Be Fair. And the one of the best bits of feedback she got was, and she put it on the top of her book, this should be required reading for all girls and women in the UK. Like every girl or woman should have a copy of this book. And the wonderful thing is people now buy her book There's even guys like who buy their book for their daughters.
Oh, how lovely. Yeah.
Which is wonderful. So she's really building up traction. And you know, her book's been out for about 18 months or so now. So it's building up traction right now. But that is wonderful. And the book is all about, you know, if you're a young woman who's just going into the workplace, how to negotiate that you get the same pay as all the men, you know, who are doing the same level. But the most crucial part of it is how, you know, to have those conversations with your partner if you're both looking to have children. Because really what should be happening is, if you both want children, he should be funding the leftover from your pension pot. Because he needs to do that, because his pension pot isn't being hurt if she is going to go part-time or even leave work to look after the children. You can't assume you're going to stay together.
And the interesting thing is as well, there's not that many female financial advisors out there. So there might be women out there that are interested in going, oh, how much what my pension is worth. I want to, and then they've got to go to a man who'd be like, oh, well, you know, we've got time. And there's this sort of historic, is it a prejudice? Is it a historic way of being that it's like the women not that important? It doesn't really matter. Oh, you know, you'll find a way. You've got your state pension will be fine. Really? I don't think so.
I think it's also, it's not even, I mean, there are sadly some men, I don't call them men, males. Yeah. I won't use the word that I normally use. It's a Bengali word. Now you're going to be intrigued. It's a Bengali word that I can translate it, but then it'd be rude. So I won't say it. But you know, but there are males who, yes, will just instantly dismiss a woman and be like, but I don't think the average guy does that. I just think, you know, as human beings, we are terrible at putting ourselves in somebody else's shoes. So I think that's all it is. It's not the men, I will call them men because they are men, they're nice people, they're good people. It's just that they just don't know. They don't know what it feels like to be a woman, in the same that we don't really know what it feels like to be a man. And that's all it is, you know. And that's why I think what Amanda's doing is so huge, you know, not just being a female financial planner, but someone through their entire, so whether you're a young woman who's just entering the workforce, whether you're a woman who's looking to have children, a woman who's already had children, now thinking, hang on, my pension pot has been affected, how do I have this conversation with my husband? And women who are well past it and now retiring and now trying to work out, how am I going to live on this and how to do that well, you know? So it's very powerful, and I've got real hopes, and I suspect I'm going to be proved right here, that in the next 5 years Amanda's going to start advising the government on, you know, policy changes. She's already got a few good connections in people in high places, and I think the law needs to change. We need to look at, if women leave the workforce and come back part-time, or they take time out for a few years and come back, they should not be penalized for children that are necessary for the nation. We keep being told the nation is getting too old and we're not having enough babies, and then women are penalized for having babies.
I think there is a swing now, isn't there, with the younger people, that they don't look on the mother as being the sole carer. It's much more a 50-50. So that swing is generally happening. But what isn't happening is women, I think people at school are not being taught how to look after their own finances. And I think that's going to become more difficult because cash is less available. So you can't see a £5 note or a £10 note. It's all invisible and it's on a spreadsheet, or you look at your bank statement. And I think women need to be empowered in that space. So this lady sounds amazing. But just as a case people are listening and they know you as the vegan publisher, you don't have to be vegan for you to publish their book, do you?
No, the vegan publisher is me. I'm talking about me and my team. I'm being egotistical and talking about me. It's nothing to do with you. The world doesn't revolve around you. It's about me. Okay?
Exactly.
That makes me sound like I'm egotistical. But yeah, this is me. This is me. You know, this is how I show up, and I feel I'm the best person that I can be by being vegan. You know a little bit of my story. I've experienced a lot of colorism, a little bit of racism, but far more colorism than racism. I mean, I don't want to give you a sob story. I've actually met a lot of people who've gone through a hell of a lot worse than I've gone through. At least I had a loving family. You know, that is what's, you know, kept me, kept the core of me, you know, kept me grounded, that I am loved. And there's people out there, sadly, who don't even have that, you know, they don't even have that. So I'm always mindful of, you know, of what I've got rather than what I didn't have. But me showing up and being the best person in this world is saying that even as a human being, I still have privileges that other human beings don't. So as I've just explained, you know, people who don't even have a family, or a family who abandon them, and animals. Whatever you've gone through as a human being, just being born as a human being, you have privileges and rights that animals don't. So for me to be the best person that I can be in the world is for me to never mind treat all human beings as kind, sentient beings, and to do the best for them until proved otherwise. It's for good me to go that next level and do the same for all animals as well, and the planet as a whole. I do think of the planet as a living, breathing being as well, that's now being, well, has been for many years, being diseased by us. So that's how I show up. However, for me to judge somebody for not being vegan is just, we're all messing up somewhere or another. Not even I'm not perfect. Vegans are not perfect. We probably don't even know about it. We're doing something wrong. I just found out recently that tattoo ink can be vegan or non-vegan. I've got a tattoo from when I was 22 years old. I've probably got crushed up bits of animal with permanent skin on my stomach. Right. You live and you learn. And guess what? I'm actually treating myself for my 45th birthday coming up, you know, in the next couple of months. I'm getting my second tattoo. I feel like it's been another 2 decades. It's time for another tattoo. But guess what? With that new knowledge, I'm going to go and find a vegan tattooist who uses vegan inks. But you can't beat yourself up about what you know. You just got to do the best you can. And we're all messing up. So how do I tell? For example, I've got a lady at the moment who's a midwife. And she told me jokingly that no nurse or doctor remembers beyond the number 10 when it comes to how many lives they've saved. So that just goes to show how many lives she saved as a midwife over 20 plus years she was in the NHS. Not vegan. Should I now tell this woman, I'm sorry, I don't care. You've saved all these babies and these women, but I don't care. You're not vegan. So I'm not going to work with you. That makes me the a-hole, if you think about it. So one of my biggest tenets of vegan is I respect and love all life. That actually includes humans as well.
Thank
and
goodness.
Not just animals. So no, you don't have to be vegan. However, if you are paying lip service to doing good stuff, it's all a marketing ploy. I will see through you within the hour, just letting you know. So don't bother contacting me. You can be vegan or you can be non-vegan. You can contact me, but don't contact me even if you're vegan, if you're just paying lip service and your business, your brand, your non-profit isn't genuinely doing good in the world, because I can see through it very, very quickly.
It's interesting, isn't it? People come along and they have all the right seeming credentials, and then it's that time when you have to go, well, I would work with you, but there's that thing there, and it's like the elephant in the room, isn't it? And you have to say no, and it's not easy saying no, because quite often the money's quite interesting and you think, we could have done with that. But at the same time, if you're not aligned in your values, it's going to be clunky working with that person. You're not going to have fun. You're not going to have a genuine connection. And actually, there's not enough money in the world that's going to...
It isn't. That's a good point. You think you're making money, but the amount of time and energy it sucks out of you, you actually didn't make all that much money. And also, I think that was one of the key reasons why I rebranded as a vegan publisher. It hurts me now to be allowed, as Let's Tell You Story Publishing, it didn't hurt my brand too much. That if somebody, as long as someone, say for example, one of my authors does something terrible and ends up in jail, of course, whatever brand I had, it's going to hurt my reputation. But as long as if they're doing a little bit of greenwashing here and there, and that wouldn't have hurt my brand. But as a vegan publisher, people have a higher standard for me. So it forces me to make sure that the people that I work with are genuine and doing something good, whether that's helping you, like Amanda, she's educating women on not retiring into poverty, so that's got nothing to do with animals or the planet, but it's helping human beings. It has to be genuine. There has to be a genuine cause or a mission there, and not some kind of made up mission because it's a marketing ploy.
It's the same for Collaboration Global. When people come to the community, and I have most 99% of the time, I'll have a good conversation with them and find out if we're aligned. And when that energy, even though it's on Zoom, we still have that kind of like, oh, let me give you a hug. When we have a conversation and they get what I'm saying and I get what they're saying, and I see that the journey that they've had and they see where we're going with it, and it's almost like, how can we not be together? This is amazing. This is fantastic. And it is understanding they have a passion and they have a mission and they're doing their businesses for their purpose. And it's almost like if they didn't earn a penny, they'd probably still be doing it because this is what they feel they're on this planet to do. It's their whole reason for being, and it's the legacy that they're going to leave. Then it's like, it's inevitable that we're like magnets, that we have to be attracted together. And when you work with people like that, it's fun. It's joy.
Exactly. It is fun. I had so much fun working with Amanda and Bobby and Luke. That's another, I won't go about, I can talk about all of my authors. And, you know, like I said, I love them all. They all have incredible stories that go into their books. So I won't, you know, there's 22 of them so far. I'm working with 33 other authors right now. All amazing stories as well. So I won't take up any more of your time. But yeah, they've all got incredible stories. And I think it's so much fun. You know, I feed off that energy. You know, it's so much fun to work with them and to, you know, brainstorm their book out and what's going to go in it and their stories. And I learn about them as well. I almost have a little bit of a withdrawal that happens once the book is published because we're not speaking as much. So I would go.
But they're going to have another one. If they've done a book with you at some point, they'll come back and go, will you help me with the second one?
And they've written second books with me as well. So yeah, but I always have a little bit of a withdrawal because once the book is published, then we may be like catching up with each other maybe once every couple of months. And we've gone from speaking 2-3 times a week to catching up every couple of months.
That connection though, that bond and that connection and that admiration you have for them is never going to disappear. So even in 10 years time, if you haven't spoken to them and they come on the phone or you bump into them in the street or whatever, you're still going to have that, oh, how are you doing? This is so lovely to see you. Because that, when you've been through that kind of work with somebody, it does stay with you. You're not going to be able to forget them too easily. Even when you've done 200, 300 books or more, you'll still have that wonderful connection. I've stolen an idea from Simon Sinek, and on his podcast, I hope you won't mind. Please get in touch, Simon, if you do dislike me doing this. But on his podcast, A Little Touch of Optimism, he generally asks his guests what their happiest memory was as a child. So when you were about 7 or 8, you know, what's one of the things that you kind of remember that you go, oh, that was so lovely?
You know, my happiest, it's going to sound so, it's going to date me like you wouldn't believe. I don't care. I'm proud of it, so I don't care. So I would say my happiest memory is we used to, I'm sure like lots of people, we used to watch Top of the Pops and you would tape all the songs that you liked. So we ended up amassing over the space of about, I would say 4 years, we managed to fill a 4-hour tape of songs, which is a lot of songs. Bearing in mind, our pop song is what, 2.5-3 minutes each.
Yeah,
that's a lot of songs. And then what we would do is for a treat, you know, every so often, maybe once a year, we would sit and watch the entire thing and we would all sing through it. And it was all full of stuff like Kylie and Jason and like Stock Aitken and Waterman and stuff that, you know, adults would be rolling their eyes at and going, that's not real music. But it's what kids, I always get very worried whenever you have kids who are too cool. I've got 3 friends like that who, you know, oh, when I was 6, I was listening to Pink Floyd. And I'm like, oh, get over yourself. Do you know what I mean? You didn't have a childhood if you were listening to Pink Floyd.
No, exactly.
You're meant to listen to nonsense. You know, I'm happy when, you know, I hear kids and they're listening to some nonsense. I'm going, what the hell is that? But it's music designed for kids, you know? And that's what we used to listen to. And I so many happy memories of singing at the top of my lungs. I'm sure my neighbors weren't happy. But yeah, just, you know, and then literally being hoarse at the end of it, like losing my voice because I sang, because these are all the songs that we liked. Obviously it's one after the other, there's no break. It's not like watching Top of the Pops where you like one song but then you have 2 dud songs that you don't like, so you're not singing to
these
them.
are all your favorites.
You know, it's all your favorites, you know all the words.
So, and I bet you still know them all now as well if they come on the radio.
You know what's really annoying now? I love TikTok, and TikTok's brilliant. Their algorithm really works out your personality within a few days.
Oh gosh.
So it's now feeding me all of these, you know, hidden and forgotten classics from late 80s and early 90s. I'm like, oh my God, I remember this. No, and I'm sat there and I'll even comment, why do I forget where I put my glasses? But I know this word for word from 1992.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love it. Well, do you know what? This is one of the reasons that Simon does this thing about going back, because you can then pinpoint, join the dots between what you're doing now and what you did then.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
So thinking about it, I saw you a few weeks ago at VegFest in Brighton, and I saw you speak, and I saw you have a profound impact on the people that you were talking to, because you were talking about fitting in. And I see that there is an element of you back in the day when you would sing at the tops of your voices and not be bothered by who was listening or who was watching or who was going to make comment. And although you were nervous about going on stage at VegFest, when you were there, you owned the space. And I can imagine you as that small child owning that living room and being the one that, yeah, this is my part. This is the bit that I sing. You shut up, it's my turn. And you just loving being the kingpin at that time. And then you kind of fast forward so many years and you were on stage and it was like, this is my moment. This is me. You know, you could have put Kylie on in the background and you'd have started singing as well. It was just so beautiful to see you in a space that perhaps you're not 100% comfortable yet, but you soon will be, but just owning it, and your message was so powerful, and the story that you told was so it connected you to your audience. There was lots of nods and there was lots of understanding, and maybe they haven't trodden the same path as you, but they see similarities along the way. So it's interesting how sometimes the thing that causes us huge happiness as a child can actually be part of who we are today and be translated into our business as well. And I think if you weren't as passionate about your business, that wouldn't have happened on stage. And what happened on stage will have affected 1, 2, maybe more people in that audience, where they probably went away and their lives will be transformed and changed in some small way because of the powerful story that you told.
Thank you. And that's really interesting. Yeah, I never really thought of it that way. But yeah, I mean, that's only the 3rd time in my life I've ever spoken. So, you know, I'm a very new speaker. But I think what pushes me to do what I do is what we discussed just earlier on about having something beyond just making money, like genuinely having a cause. And, you know, people understanding that we will never truly be able to rid this world of racism, of homophobia, of transphobia, of misogyny. We will never truly be able to get rid of it if we ultimately practice speciesism, you know, because that is the building block of all things. If you look at some of the old, you know, documents that are now in the public domain of, you know, conversations and letters between slave owners and the people who are trying to, you know, abolish slavery, you can see how it's easy to think of slave owners as these just evil people. They weren't evil. They were just
doing what everybody else
of their time. And some of them even cared for their slaves in the way that farmers care for their cows and pigs, but then still send them to slaughter. And, you know, and in the same way, that's what they were doing. It's like, but I care for my slaves, you know, and they wouldn't know. And the arguments are sort of like, you know, they wouldn't know what to do in the wild, you know, you know, and then you kind of think speciesism, this idea that certain animals we've put in boxes as this is pet, this is test subject, that underpins all of the other stuff that we do as human beings. The ability to put somebody into a box because of their race or their sexual orientation or their gender or whatever is what, you know. So when people say to me, like, I don't understand how people can be racist, like, oh, I do. I can absolutely understand why people can be racist. I can absolutely understand why people can be misogynistic, or because we're all doing it at the animal level. So it doesn't then take all that much to do it at the human level.
Yeah.
You know? So when I was getting on that stage, I felt all those nerves and my mind was going blank. And it's like, how did I start this speech again? And all the rest of it. But the one thing that spurs me on is that feeling of, this isn't about me. I have to get this message out to as many people as possible. So even if they don't care about animals, there are people out there who don't care about animals. But if you just care about human beings and us being the best that we can be and not treating each other as terribly as we do, then this is how to dismantle it. I don't know the exact quote, but there's a gentleman who said that the speciesism dismantles everything. When you can look into the eyes of a cow and see a sentient being, how can you not then look into the eyes of a human being who's got a different color skin or a different gender than you? You just see similarities. If you see similarities of a different species to you, then human beings now just become, oh my God, you're just completely like me. And everything falls apart. All of the isms that we have, they fall apart. So but I never really linked this all back to that. Is probably because that I've had a bit of a hard childhood, and those were my few moments of joy, just singing at the top of my lungs. And I did feel this feeling of, it doesn't really matter. Interesting, I do dance like a lunatic to get rid of still. It's one of my things. So I do half an hour dance class in the morning.
Right.
Like every morning I do. That's my thing to get out of bed. And then if I'm getting writer's block or, frustrations in my business, we all have this, I will just put my headphones on and dance like a lunatic to some music for about 15 minutes. And I'll shake it out. And what was really interesting is I saw, I've forgotten the gentleman's name. He's in Collaboration Global. Remind me, the gentleman who was talking about grounding and shaking, and he does a lot of Tai Chi.
Alessandro.
That's it. I knew it. I was like, it's an Italian name, but I just I'm still quite new in the group, so I'm still trying to remember all the different people's names. And he was doing that. I do grounding, but I just walk around, I pad around, then I sit and I meditate, but I don't really think of shaking. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I was kind of doing that separately. I'm shaking
as you dance,
the anxiety with the dance, but that is on carpet. And then I'm going out in the garden. Maybe I need to dance like a lunatic on my lawn.
Can you
that's fine. And then let Alessandra know how that goes.
It's a brilliant one. I love his so many things that he says that make such sense. It's like when you're feeling stressed or you've been on the keyboard, at the very least, raise your hands up and look up, because that helps your brain to let everything just disappear down. I'm sorry, Alessandra, I'm explaining it very badly, but I know that this look up thing just made me go, oh yes, I can feel it. Kind of like all the stress that you hold in front of you while you're working, if you just go back, it kind of all eases back and disappears from you, and you feel refreshed and cleared. But obviously all the shaking is brilliant as well.
What Alessandra's doing is just brilliant. He's showing something that we all kind of know, and yet we kind of ignore it, and that is our physiology. We think we feel emotions, then it affects our physiology, but you can reverse it. Your physiology affects your emotions. So something I learned a long time ago is, when you're not feeling confident, pretend confidence. So put your shoulders back, neck up, and and you put out open body language. If you're wanting to hunch up, force yourself to open up, and you just do that for a few minutes, and it's like fake it till you make it. After a few minutes, you actually now feel confidence. So just in the way that emotions can affect your physiology can affect your emotions. We actually know all this, and yet we forget.
I mean, one of my favorite TED Talks is Amy Cuddy. I don't know if you've seen that one, Cuddy, and she talks about feeling confident, because as a kid, she was expected to do great things and get qualifications and everything. And then she had an accident. So she had to learn to walk again and talk again and all those kind of things. But eventually she did get to university, but she had massive imposter syndrome. And it's like, I shouldn't be here. I'm not clever enough. Having been a clever child, everyone told her she was a clever child. And now she thought, I'm not clever enough. But she went and did that. She went to the toilet and kind of did the Superman pose. It's like, yes, I could do this. And it's like, the physiology will catch up with you later. Because kid yourself for a little while, get the energy flowing, get yourself ready for it, and you can walk on and you can do it. And it's our bodies are really clever, aren't they? When we look after them, when we treat them like a temple, when we feed them the goodness that they need, they respond, and we can do amazing things when our brain is clear, when our gut is working properly, when our muscles are strong. There's nothing that we can't achieve. And then when you put those kind of people together in a room and connect them and get them to collaborate, then we can change the world.
Absolutely. Well said.
Well, on that note, I've got a strong feeling we're going to have part 2 of this, because there's a lot of stuff we haven't even began to start with. How did you start being a publisher in the first place?
I know, we didn't even get into that, did we?
Oh my goodness. But hopefully people get a taste of your energy, your powerful, positive, loving energy that comes through. I think you've got an amazing business, an amazing passion, and I wish you every success in what you do, Mitali. And it's been an absolute joy to have you on this podcast. If somebody wanted to come along and get in touch with you, maybe they've got a book brewing in their head, or if they just think you're a lovely person, they want to have a chat, what's the easiest way for them to get hold of you?
The best thing to do is just email me, Mitali@theveganpublisher.com. So it's quite simple, Mitali@theveganpublisher.com. Or you can go to my website, theveganpublisher.com. Again, very simple. And you'll find me on all social media with a ridiculous surname like mine. You'll find me. I'm very findable. You can just Google me and I'm findable. I put it this way, it's a good job I'm a good person, because if the police wanted me or anybody wanted me, I'm very findable. I can't hide.
Is it an unusual? Is it a sort of unique one?
See, here's we can talk half an hour on this. So let me try and give it in a nutshell. So no, it's not what I call a common name, but it's not but what's happened here is when people, and lots of people who come from like brown communities or black communities will resonate here, is that when our parents or grandparents or great-grandparents came to a Western country, they were just kind of given a form and saying, put your name on it. And they would have to sit there and work out what it is in their alphabet and then try and do the best estimation into English.
Wow.
So that my version of this surname, I've now found out, I found out a couple of years ago, it literally only belongs to me and my family. No one else in the entire world has this version. But that's because other people use we have some people who didn't put the H in.
Yes.
We have some people who use slightly different vowels. So instead of D-E-Y, they went with D-I-Y for some reason, because they, in their heads, when they were trying to change it, they had to. They even have some people who said, I've even had some people say, well, no, day is actually, it's like you have it in the Netherlands, you have Van, and it's not a middle name, it's part of a surname, but it's got a space.
Yeah.
But some people have split up the Deypurkaystha and it's a day space Purkaystha, and they're probably right. But we just basically had to muddle along. We came into a foreign country, we were like, well, it's cold, it's raining, and we need to fill the form. Let's just fill the form in and try and get
it done. That's good enough. That'll do. I love it.
That's what we did.
But do you know, even English names come back from are all made up. You know, it's like the blacksmith was Mr. Smith. You know, the baker, Mr. Baker, and it's kind of whatever your profession was dictated what surname you had. So my name comes from the tin mines in Cornwall.
Interesting. My name comes from you have the caste system in India. So my family comes from the warrior caste. So Purkaystha, that part of it means the warrior class. So I assume my lot were,
puppies,
knifing people and all sorts of horrible things. I'm still a bit of a warrior, but now I don't go around knifing people, put it that way.
Or animals.
Or animals, indeed. I would like to kill nobody.
Exactly. You're making up for your ancestors. This is lovely.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Well, also, don't forget, if anybody would like to meet Mitali online, we have our regular monthly Collaboration Global meetings at the end of the month, always the last Tuesday. You can find how to book by going to Eventbrite or go to collaborationglobal.org, and you can book on there as well. And you can meet her at one of those sessions at the end of the month. So thank you again, Mitali. It's been an absolute joy chatting to you. I'm sure we'll do part 2 very soon. Wishing you every success with your business going forward. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody soon. Thank you.